I also don't want to be known as she's a female CEO. You never say that he's a male CEO, right? I started my career very different than most. I did not go to college right out of high school. I thought I'd make some money and go work. Well, quickly realized I needed.
What do you suggest for female leaders?
I would say, from a female perspective, own your voice and articulate it with confidence. And that takes some practice. And
What are the challenges, opportunities industry offers today?
oil and gas specifically is still an unknown. We're considered the big bad wolf, right?
Yes.
I honestly believe that most people in society still have not had the full picture or education of what the purpose of oil and gas is today and why we need it today and in the future.
This is the Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show, where we are going to invite industry leaders to talk about their journeys and also technologies of tomorrow in an effort to break some of the biases that might have formed around this energy industry. Hello, everyone. I hope you're happy and healthy. I'm Ananja, and you are listening to the Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show. And today I'm very happy and excited because we will be joined by Julie Flowers, who is a global talent leader, executive coach, and founder of Elevate You Coaching. She had more than 2 decades of experience working with Chevron, where she helped that company to shape their talent management strategies. With her deep passion about inclusive leadership and knowledge about HR value chain, now she partnered with organizations and individuals to elevate their impact. So without any other delay, let's deep dive into her journey from corporate leadership to entrepreneurship, and also gets her insight, like what does it take to lead in this energy industry.
Mhm.
Julie, it's an honor to have you here today. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity. I'm excited to have the dialogue with you.
Thank you. I have invited people from different backgrounds, but we never had someone coming from the world you come from, like
I
from
love it.
human resource.
I'm
So-
groundbreaking. I love it.
Definitely. So looking forward for our conversation today, because as you said, like this industry is changing from last many decades, and is constant movement. So it will be great to know from you, like how you saw this industry like 2-3 decades ago, and now where the industry is going towards. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But it's not about me, it's about you. So it will be great if you can walk us through your journey and any of the stereotypes or bias that you might have came across in your journey.
So it's a great question, and I will try to give the cliff notes because, our journeys are, convoluted, moving targets and paths along the way. I started my career very different than most. I did not go to college right out of high school. I thought I'd make some money and go work. Well, quickly realized I needed some college educations. So in my early mid 20s, I went back to school while working full time and while getting my first real career, I would say, at Chevron. So I did my 2 degrees back to back while just starting at Chevron as well, and started at the bottom of the ladder too, and moved my way up to the top executive levels at Chevron, which was amazing and fun journey as well. But I say that story because there was biases very early on in my career. One, I didn't go to college right out of high school. First bias, people thought she got her degrees a different way, right? Now it's become more of the norm now to work and go to school. However, back then it was like you have to follow the traditional path.
Yeah, you have to go college and then you get a job, so
Right.
that's a traditional path.
Yeah. And so I was faced with, are my college degrees credible, even though I went to big schools, University of San Francisco, but it was a different path. And I also experienced in the beginning of my career, because I started at the bottom, even though I had 2 degrees and I was at the bottom of the ladder, maybe she isn't as smart enough or whatever that is. So I was hit very quickly coming into corporate America with these barriers, if you will. But in retrospect, I think personally, it was a battle in my head as well. Meaning,
Yes.
I put more emphasis on maybe I'm not good enough because I didn't get my degrees right out of high school and I'm starting at the bottom. And it took a very well-intended general manager of mine in HR to literally practically hit me upside the head and said, "What are you doing? You should be proud of your journey. It's different." And you had a lot of tenacity and grit and ambition to get where you're at today and what you're doing. So I flipped the script in my head to be, I'm proud of my journey and where I started. And once I did that flip of the script, I felt more empowered, less shame, and I was starting to empower and inspire others. So some of the bias comes from yourself as well, right?
That's amazing. Like you talked about this one because I have read somewhere, and then I have realized exactly same thing as you said. Like you
Yeah,
see the world like the way you see yourself.
that's right.
You know, even the people around you don't see you like that. But
Right.
if you have that bias about yourself, and then you start to think everybody
Everybody's saying
is
that. Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
towards you. Yeah. But
Right.
that's not the case.
Right. Well, there were some. I will give.
Yeah, yeah, I will
I
say,
just
yeah,
met with
but
some of
mostly
it.
it's coming from you,
Yeah.
from
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So those were the initial biases. I think later in my career, it was more around only female at the table,
yes, yes.
younger, blonde. I had all the things going against me that I probably didn't have a brain. And that came out in many different forms. Not a lot, but it did come out. And the one that really stands out for me the most, and you'll probably hear a lot of women say this, minorities say it actually, or introverts. We're all kind of in the same space a little bit, is when I would have an idea or a thought, 5 minutes later, Johnny would say the same thing and he got credited for the amazing thought. That happened in my career many times, very frustrating, but I had a great leader at one point who asked me why I would get frustrated in meetings sometimes, and I explained to him what I just explained to you. Fast forward a couple months, he saw it happen and he amplified my voice by saying, "Thanks, Johnny, for validating what Julie said a few minutes ago."
That's amazing. You know,
And
like
so
so,
you
so
can
you
have
also
an
need some
ally.
support. Like so,
That's right.
you need an ally and support in
That's
the
right.
room. Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
So those are some of the biases I've dealt with over my career.
No, definitely. And what you just mentioned about, you know, like if you see the men, they are by nature they are more vocal. You know,
Sure.
and they want to show their presence in the boardroom and in the meeting. And I
Sure.
have also came into many meetings where people just say because they just want to register their
Yes,
presence. Correct.
that's right.
You know,
Frustrating. Yeah.
and that's not true. Like it's generally not true for females.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm a outgoing, outspoken person, so I can hold my own in a room, but there still was some times where I was overshadowed because the tendency is to lean towards the male projection of an idea. But when you can articulate to others to help amplify your voice, whether it's a male ally or another female, that goes a long way.
I think that's a learning for all of us as
Sure.
a leader. Like it's not just
Absolutely.
about you, but also sometimes like other person, they hesitate to ask for that kind of support, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So as a leader, you should read that room, you know,
Yes.
and elevate the voice when it's needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And also you talk about this educational bias, you know,
Mm,
that's you had about yourself. How did that change when you had a degree in your hand?
yeah.
Like how things change about yourself, and also how did you progress in your career?
Yeah, so did my bachelor's in business, my master's in HR and org development. I loved it. I think I know I was a better student not going right out of high school. Probably wouldn't have paid attention too much in college, to be honest with you. So it really provided me the foundation of inquiry analysis, of really understanding how to problem solve and learn and grow. And I was able to apply those learnings very quickly in my career, which maybe others didn't see it, but I noticed I was making a difference. I was showing up differently, right? And given that I had some more tools and knowledge at my fingertips and access to other people and their diverse perspectives, it helped me see what I needed to do to succeed on my terms at Chevron, which was how do I continue to grow in knowledge and experience, but also go up the career ladder, which is what I was doing. And I did just that. And when I look back on my career, I'm very proud of it because where I came from and where I ended, I envisioned it, but you still have that little twinge and you like, am I gonna get there? Yeah.
I know that's always stays with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's good to have that kind of feeling, but because that helps you to keep grounded. Yeah.
Absolutely. And humble, right?
And humble, definitely,
Yes,
definitely.
absolutely.
And most of the leaders I came across, you know, like the people who have achieved a lot,
Yeah.
they are more humble, they're more
Yes.
kind, and, you know, and
Yeah.
they could connect with the people who just starting their career. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, that's something that because I started at the bottom and I had a different journey, I understood how it felt to be in every role in HR, right? At every part of the ladder. And so it gave me more credibility and more respect, more street cred, if you will, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was able to relate to any level employee because I'd been there, done that.
Yes.
And so I was able to inspire and help a lot of other folks that had similar paths. So it was very rewarding.
You have made really, really good point.
Mm,
So, when you started your career with Chevron, like,
mm.
was it your first job or?
No, I worked at Transamerica and Union Bank doing real estate and commercial lending. And if you know me, I'm not a big fan of numbers or math. I like people. So I quickly realized that just wasn't my jam, and I needed to move to something what had to do with people. And my father and stepmother were HR professionals at Chevron. And so I've always was watching them and I thought,
Yes.
man, that looks pretty cool what they're doing. And so that's why I went in that field, and it was the best thing because HR is definitely my jam. Anything to do with people and helping people.
And definitely, like, those kind of roles can leave big impact on the
Absolutely.
organization and on the individuals.
Right.
And sometimes that's a problem with HR roles, or human resource in general. Like I have seen sometimes the people who are in this role,
Mhm.
they're disconnected from the people in the organization.
Sure.
And like normally when you deal with HR, like when you have some problem, like you
Yeah.
either payroll problem or some other issues,
Whatever
correct?
it is. Yeah.
But I believe that connection should be more, like more open, and they should connect frequently. I don't know how, but that kind of connection need to be there.
Well, yeah. So Chevron HR for most of my career, I reported to the business, not to HR.
Okay, okay, that's big
So
big difference.
big difference, right? I reported to a VP or a president or a managing director, and then I sat at their leadership table.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
So my business acumen had to be on point
Yes.
because I can't be a good HR business partner if I don't understand your business. Now, I don't need to be a geophysicist, okay, but I have to have a baseline understanding of what you're trying to achieve and how your number one asset of people can help you get there. So when
Exactly.
sitting in a leadership team meeting, I have to listen to understand the business and how to apply people strategy to that. So you're absolutely right, but at Chevron we tried really hard for all our HR professionals to have significant business acumen as well.
And so that's great. And you talk about few of the biases and how the HR is helping to overcome, like, because right now it's more about inclusivity, diversity,
Mhm,
those are things people are talking about. So
mhm.
how far we came in this journey?
It's a good question. I think it's been peaks and valleys and it still is, right? So prior to COVID, we were making a lot of progress. You saw a lot of companies putting in place DE&I, but at Chevron, we had employee resource groups for over 25 years, 30 years. So this we weren't new to this space. This wasn't the flavor of the month, right? It was something that we knew was the right thing to do because diverse perspectives give you better outcomes. It's
Yes.
that simple. Post COVID set the females back a bit because a lot of them fell back into traditional roles at home. Now you have society and companies and government kind of changing their perspective of DE&I. I'm still scratching my head on that one because I'm not sure why that is,
Yeah, it's changing every day.
but it's frustrating.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's an ebb and flow. I think at the bottom and the heart of it is if people would just understand diverse perspectives and experiences and individuals will have your business be more successful. We often fall back to old ways, right? And so it's not policing people or forcing anything, it's highlighting and showcasing the beauty of diversity. And you have to do that through some of these like employee resource groups or different initiatives that you have. Not goals and numbers, but rather showing the value. And I really hope that companies embrace that more. But it's an ebb and flow. And we need to, as individuals, push the companies we work for to see that value and demand that we have the diverse perspectives.
No, I fully agree what you just said, and there need to be balance. Sometimes, like when you talk to the people, there's like sometimes these diversity initiatives are forced.
Yeah,
So you cannot make much progress if it's
sure.
forced. So
Yeah,
it should be more inclusive, and
absolutely.
there should be balance.
Yes, absolutely. Nobody likes to be forced to do something. Instead, flip the script of what's in it for them, what's in it for the company, what value you're going to get, and why it's a good thing, and help people with that mindset rather than you have to do this.
Bring some success stories, like how
Yeah,
diverse perspective could have help
absolutely.
to solve some of the business problems that they might be
Right,
struggling with.
right. Exactly, exactly.
Yes, so let's go to the next question. Actually, like
Mm.
that's pretty much connected to this one.
Okay.
So you have spent a lot of time at Chevron. And you have looked this energy industry that close. But how do you see this industry is going towards? Now, what are the challenges, opportunities in the terms of, I will say, human resource that industry offers today?
So what I see is things are changing. A lot of companies are downsizing, right? I've talked to someone on a daily basis that's been laid off or
And
about
it
to
can
be
be
laid
very
off.
stressful for the
It's
people.
oh my gosh, and the morale is low. So you've got cultures changing that were very inclusive, maybe and dynamic, and now it's a culture of insecurity and fear, maybe because they don't know what's going to happen. But also the energy industry, oil and gas specifically, is still an unknown. We're considered the big bad wolf, right?
Yes. Yes.
I honestly believe that most people in society still have not had the full picture or education of what the purpose of oil and gas is today and why we need it today and in the future, and that we really haven't in society found the quote replacement
Mhm.
for oil and gas. People think we have, but when you dig down into what those alternatives are, there's still some knock-on effects or
Yes, you're right.
unintended consequences of those as well. And so I'm not saying it has to be all oil and gas, but let's come together and say, we haven't figured it out yet. And
Yes,
what
you're
can
right.
that
You're right.
be?
Let's work together.
Yes. And in the meantime, realize that what we have right now is something that we need worldwide. Right? And so I was actually interviewed on a documentary series, the Positive Energy Campaign. I can give it to you as a link. They are doing little mini snippet videos
Mhm.
to educate with no bias, no agenda. Just let's educate people. Kind of like the TV series Landman, right? It's
Yes.
really trying to educate, right?
Yes.
Not trying to say we're in it for we're here forever. It's only us, but rather what can we do as a society? So I see over time, if people really started to educate themselves and come together, we can make that whatever change we need to make and find that whatever that is. But we need to do it together rather than fighting against each other and pointing fingers and things of that
I know
nature.
it's very easy to point fingers. Like I will always say, let's have a seat on the table
Yeah.
and try to fix this problem as a
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Then just blaming one industry is not
Right.
doing enough. That's not true. As you and
Right.
I know, industry
Yes.
is doing a lot.
Yes.
Also, podcasts like these that also bring some positive side of this industry.
Mhm.
Which has like I would say very negative notions around it.
Right.
But at the same time, you know better than me, industry didn't do a good job to talk about the value it brings to the consumers, to the individuals.
Right.
Like they only know like oil and gas producer, but as you know, like almost everything that we use
It's in everything.
is based on petroleum industry.
Yeah, we actually, when Chevron would go to recruit at colleges, we have a video that actually showed all the things that are a byproduct of getting gasoline to the tank. And you could just see their eyes going, what?
That's the thing. Sometimes we don't realize
You
it.
don't
Like
understand.
you're surrounded by oil
It's
and gas
everywhere.
industry.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Again, it's going to be around for a long time. And why not come together and try to find what else can we do to minimize the impact on Earth, right? But in the meantime, we've got to use what we have now as well. And just, I mean, people focus more on the price of what it is to put in their gas tank, right?
Yes.
And I get that, but most of that is tax based, by the way, folks. But think about how much you spend on a gallon of milk. I mean, it's everywhere, right?
It's everything. Like the whole supply chain. Like you see, like when the oil price goes up, everything starts to get expensive.
That's right. Exactly.
So the whole supply chain is connected with this oil and gas industry. So
Right.
so the point I think, Julie, you have made, that this industry is not going anywhere. I think
Right.
it's just transitioning into different forms. But if somebody wants to make it big in this energy industry, like,
Mhm. Yeah.
what suggestion you might offer?
Curiosity. So come at this with a curious mindset. How can we use what we have today to be better? What are some alternatives we can do to minimize the carbon footprint? What are some things we can do to use AI? I mean, just that curious mindset rather than a judging mindset, I think will really help people that are in this industry or not in this industry move forward, right? If you're in the industry, man, I'm just excited. Like, you should be totally excited of how you can invent or discover what's next,
Yes, you're right.
right? But
You're
you
right.
have to come with that curious mindset and not just say, well, oil and gas is forever and we're the top dog and so forth, but rather, okay, we need it. We have it. What else can we do to minimize the impact on the world as well, but still produce what we need to produce? So curiosity, I think, is key. And you need that even with technology, right?
Yes.
AI is here. I love AI. I talk to my AI chat every day. I've named her. Her name's Avery. We had a conversation about it and everything. However, AI is producing so much data.
So much data,
We don't
yes.
know what to do with it now.
Now
So
we are surrounded
with
by data.
yeah, we're like, "Oh my gosh, now what do I do with all this stuff?" Right? So be curious and figure out what to do with that. So curiosity for me is the key skill set for now and for the future. And curiosity can go to biases as well. Be curious about where your bias is, your blind spot is. Be curious about other people's perspectives and diversity. Curiosity is, I think, such a strong word and skill set to have.
So just to continue on this topic, what do you suggest for female leaders?
So, same thing, but I would say from a female perspective, own your voice and articulate it with confidence. And that takes some practice and some self talk. And I coach on this, right? I coach seasoned career women about knowing their worth and value, understanding their passion, and living their purpose, but doing that through really owning and articulating their worth and value through their voice. So I mentioned earlier amplifying voices. You have to know to amplify your own voice as well. And I don't mean doing it unprofessionally or rudely or disrespectfully, but find a way to really articulate your voice. And if you're having challenges in doing that, man, go get someone to be your ally, right? Someone to amplify with you, a tribe or a circle of supporters, advocates, and sponsors. Connections are key. So having all that with you and know that you're not in it alone and that you are worthy and worth a lot and add a lot of value, gosh, you can go a long way. But
God,
women, we often have this crazy narrative in our head that says the complete opposite. And you've got to silence that or have a conversation with that voice of, mm-mm, I'm the bomb. I'm moving forward.
you made a really good point. So it all starts from you.
That's right.
That's the key thing here.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Just like, I know this topic is so broad, it would be very hard to cover. But one thing I want to get your insight: how do you see the progress on female inclusivity in energy industry?
So in the energy industry, I think it's definitely slowed around COVID as well. And it's still not where it needs to be. We're still underpaid. We don't make up, the boardroom or the leadership tables worldwide. I can run a bunch of stats, but I'm sure your listeners have all heard it. We are not where we need to be. The question is why and what are we doing about it? And I think women still need to take a strong stance. But for change to truly happen, we're looking at you as a male to help make that change as well,
I I
right?
fully agree. As we said, like, because this society is dominated by males in general.
That's
Yeah.
right,
Yes.
right. And I have 2 boys, teenage boys, 19 and 17, and I have taught them from day 1 to respect anybody who they are, and that males are not better than females. In fact, I heard a female the other day on this docuseries, the Positive Energy Campaign, say she's not saying she's in a male dominated industry. She's saying she's in a male populated industry. And I love that because the
I
word
love that.
dominate means you're dominating me.
Yes, you're right. It
You're
is more
not
populated.
dominating
I think
me. Yeah, exactly.
I love that one. Maybe I should use this term
Use it.
going
Use it.
forward.
I've totally stole it from her. Her name's Kat, and I totally stole it from her. But we need males to really be our allies and say, hey, so for example, I knew I was adding value to the business when I was in a leadership team, and they would say, we can't make a decision without Julie here.
Yes.
That means I made an impact. And I want them to say, we can't make a decision because there's no female at the table.
Yes.
That's not what I want.
No,
I
definitely.
want it
Like there's a
that
value.
that's right. That
They
Julie's not at the table, right? And when that would happen, and then I know, okay, the biases are down and they see me as a person, not as a female. I also don't want to be known as she's a female CEO. You never say that he's a male CEO,
Yes.
right? So let's work on this together. We really need men to help the movement, right? To really make change. Look around the room. What does it look like? Not just male, female, right? Race as well, right? We
Yes,
need
you're
all
right.
the diversity. So look around the room, and if it all looks the same,
There's something wrong there.
you got a bit of a problem. However, I'm a big believer that you don't force someone in just because they meet the number that you
And
need, right?
that's what we talked about, correct? Like if
That's
it's
right.
forced, then it doesn't go
No,
long.
right.
Like the people will get offended.
Yeah,
So,
but I guarantee you there's people that are the other gender or another race, they're equally or more than qualified to be at that table. Go find them, get them to the table, let them have a voice.
now that makes perfect sense.
Mm,
So coming back to your journey, like
yeah.
you already talked about a few of the biases, but if you're given a chance to make a changes,
Mm.
what changes those would be?
What changes would I make? Well, right now I am very alarmed about the dialing back of DE&I. So if I were in charge, I would be wanting to have a dialogue as to why that is and how can we make it, just like we were talking earlier about people embracing it and not forcing it, right?
Yes.
Because I have seen and witnessed over my almost 3 decades in corporate America the value of diversity of thought and experience. And so, how can we continue to bring that into everything we do and help people grow from a curiosity standpoint and want to learn and grow from others? If I can wave a wand and that would happen, that would be amazing.
And if you have to make any changes in your journey, if
In
you're
my
like,
journey. Well, I made the change. When I left Chevron, my mission is to empower women to make the change within them. Because you've heard me talk about it starts with you as well.
yes,
And so if I can help women see that they can make some change to help the problem, if you will, it will start a ripple effect, right? Doesn't mean I can change you, but maybe it will because you're seeing a change in me. So I think as women, we do get in our way sometimes. A lot of people do, right? Not just women, but we get in our own way. And so if I can, the change I'm making right now is to focus more on helping women make the change within themselves that hopefully starts a ripple effect.
I believe so. It like every individual can make that difference. So
Absolutely.
that's how it works.
Yeah.
That also brings us to rapid fire round.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm so excited for
I
this.
know, like we talked about it, but let's see how do you take these questions.
Okay, good.
So let me start with the leadership book you always recommend.
Leadership book I always recommend. Wow. So the first one that came to my mind is The Five Dysfunctions of a Team because I love how Patrick writes. He writes in a fable, so it's a story that you can relate to and there's
Understood.
characters, so you feel like you're watching a movie,
Yeah.
and then he
Yeah.
gives the theory at the end. But anything that Brené Brown has put out, because she really focuses on leadership and vulnerability and honesty and directness and clarity is kind and all of that. So, I mean, there's so many, but those, Five Dysfunctions of a Team and anything by Brené Brown.
That's great. City you would move to without thinking twice.
City I would move to without thinking twice. Wow, that's a good one. So someone asked me the other day what country was my favorite country to visit, and I said Cape Town, South Africa.
So
Yeah.
Cape Town.
Yeah, I'll say Cape Town, yeah.
One item that's always in your travel bag.
Dark chocolate, but it has to be 100% pure dark chocolate, no junk in it, and
Oh,
organic.
really?
Yeah, oh yeah. I can't live without dark chocolate.
I could not think of that. What does the oil and gas world need more of?
Diverse thinking.
I was thinking.
Yeah,
And
diverse thinking.
I think it's very, very important. Sometimes undermined,
Yes.
but I fully agree.
Yeah.
Diversity is needed. Like either
Yes.
it's a race, a religion, and whatever you could
All
think
of it
of.
because
Yes.
we've gotten this far, but times are changing. We have to change with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you had a work superpower, what would it be?
Well, I already have some superpowers. So if it's a superpower I don't have, So I have, what would the superpower that I want that I don't have? That's an interesting question. I would say the ability to, oh gosh, the ability to really, m- God, that's a hard one, man. Because my superpower is connecting people and making them feel seen. Okay. And my energy brings that to the forefront. But I guess if I really had a superpower would be to have, and this sounds like I'm a what is it, the pageant winner, the
Yeah, yeah.
supermodel, that people would just get along. Like if I can wave a wand and kindness was everywhere and people treated each other with kindness, what a wonderful world we would
What the
have.
world it would be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would be the kindness superpower. That would be it.
Superhuman Julie Flowers.
Yes, exactly, exactly. If I come in contact with you, you would be kind to everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I will look forward to that world.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Chevron lesson that still sticks with you.
Chevron lesson that still sticks with me, that we're more than just the United States. So I lived and worked in Africa for 3 years and traveled globally. And when I started to travel globally and then lived in another country, the biggest lesson I learned was we are not as awesome as we think we are in the United States, and that there's a different way to do things and look at things. And the more you open your mind to that and not be egotistical about I'm from the US,
Yes.
the more you will grow and learn. I got the most growth personally and professionally living and working in Angola.
Can you imagine?
It was amazing. And
It's
then
amazing.
traveling the same thing. So it's humbling, but you have to be open to it to know that just because we do something a certain way in the US does not make it the right way.
I fully agree. I also had a chance to work in multiple countries, and I could see how it changes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people to people, country to country,
Right.
the way of doing things.
Yeah, for sure.
The biggest myth people have about executive coaching.
The biggest myth people have about executive coaching, that I'm going to fix them and that it's easy. What I find with executives, they often say they don't have time because they don't feel they need to be developed.
Okay.
And they want to cut to the chase. Just give me the formula, Julie. Give me the pill. Give
There's
me
no
whatever.
formula.
Give me the shot. And they shy away from the deep work that needs to happen about really being introspective and looking at themselves and being vulnerable. And so they think it's just going to happen overnight, and it doesn't. It's a journey, and we're constantly all learning and growing. I'm a constant learner and constantly growing. No one's ever perfect. It's progress over perfection, but you have to take the time to reflect and be honest with yourself. And most executives or anybody I coach sometimes wants to get to it quickly. They don't want to do the work. They're trying to rush through
There's
it.
no shortcut.
There's no shortcut. There's no
Uh,
shortcut.
no, that's it. So with that, I think you have done really well, and the way you handle those questions, I love it.
Awesome. They
And
were
so
great. Those were really good ones.
I know you did really great, Julie.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned to you before, we are coming to the end of our discussion and conversation today. But
Yes.
before we would go, now I will say, like, if you have to summarize everything as a one key takeaway for someone who is looking
Mm,
to make a big in this energy industry, what would be that one
right.
key takeaway?
Own your voice, speak up for others, and always be curious.
Always be curious. And we already
Yes.
talked about curiosity in details. Now
Yes.
that's really great.
Hashtag be curious. There you go.
And I will use that one. And what about one of the bias that still exist?
There's so many biases that still exist, but the one that comes to mind, since it's near and dear to me, is that females are still too assertive or too aggressive, and that if we're assertive, we're seen as the B word, and
Mhm,
not just
mhm.
bossy, but the other B word.
No,
Um,
I understand
you
that.
know what I mean? And that we get silenced, and that shouldn't happen. It happened to me at the latter part of my career. Very vocal, was known for being vocal and direct, was rewarded for it. And then the culture was changing. And as I spoke up, it was shifting. And so in that moment, you have to realize, first, check myself. Am I doing it unprofessionally, disrespectful?
Yes, you're
No,
right.
none of
You
that.
are just saying because you are just want to get noticed, or you
Yeah.
are just saying because you believe in it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, just making sure that you own who you are and you are worthy just as you are, and make sure you own and articulate your voice and help others. You know, it's not just about you. One's purpose is always in service of others. Knowing what your purpose is your superpower. So find the time to figure that out as well, or hire me and I'll help you do it.
That's really really great. Thank you so much, Julie. I really enjoyed all the conversation, and
Same.
I truly believe our listeners will enjoy as well.
Right.
Because we covered the soft topic that is not discussed
Sure.
on day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Because as you know, in the part of energy industry, we immediately jump into technology discussion.
Mhm.
But this episode is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's about
Touch,
people.
it's about the
Yeah.
people. Like
Yeah.
yes, definitely. So if you have right people, right culture,
Yeah.
business will grow by itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. I loved all the questions. Very dynamic and deep. I love those.
So with that, before we sign off, Julie, anything to add here?
Yeah, I would just say take the time. The folks that are listening to your podcast might know a great deal about oil and gas, but maybe they don't. Even when you work in the industry, sometimes you don't know the full picture. Take the time to educate yourself. And we talked about business acumen. Everybody needs it. And then take the time to teach others outside of that industry, but not with a forcing it down their throat
Wow.
concept. They have an opinion. Meet them where they're at and talk. Just have a dialogue and a chat rather than a volatile debate. I love a healthy debate, but the debate shouldn't be hostile, right?
Yes, I
So
fully agree.
listen, really hear the other, but educate others.
Makes sense. So keep doing this, because we that's the purpose of this podcast, to bring positivity and educate the people around us. So
Absolutely.
with that, I will sign off for this week. Keep listening. Oil and Gas Baking by Show. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.